Hi friends, I'm Les Mood, your host. Welcome to the Destination for Innovation series brought to you by partnership through the City of Bakersfield and GreenTech Network. Today we're at the Robotic Engineering Lab at CTEC and we have a special guest, Stephen Mears. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Stephen, could you share a little bit about yourself and maybe something that your associates or the world doesn't know about you?
Oh, a little bit about myself. Well, I am 41 years old. I've lived in Bakersfield my whole life. I love it here. So, I think this is the spot in California to live. Hobbies. I love hanging out with my son. We like to, we do martial arts together. So I practice jiu-jitsu with friends, loved ones, colleagues, even here, sometimes here at the school. And love going to the beach, hanging out with my family.
Really, that's awesome. So you could teach the robotics some jiu-jitsu, maybe?
Yeah, one day the robots are going to take over even the jiu-jitsu programs of the world. Don't tell my coach that, Matt Baker.
So you've been here in Bakersfield for a while, but in terms of education and what you're doing now, where would you say your journey began?
Well, I worked for a distribution center here in Kern County for about a decade, and then it was a magazine distribution. And with the rollout of the iPad, that kind of killed the magazine industry, which is automation kind of replacing like a legacy thing. And with that, I was laid off, and I took that opportunity to go back to school. I went to Bakersfield College, studied electronics up there, which led me to industrial automation. And from that, pivoted into industry for a season, and then worked, and then I came here to CTEC.
Awesome. Well, speaking of CTEC and what you're doing today, what does your day-to-day look like, or what are you doing to make the world a better place?
Oh, my day-to-day is, it seems like it always changes. This program is liquid day-to-day. So I have the privilege of coming in to the lab, and while we have a core pathway that we're heading down, robotics, the field of robotics is always moving. It's always pivoting, and I try to give a lot of autonomy to students to create projects and labs that are expressive of their own desire to explore. And so robots are kind of like paints, and maybe they're not looked at in that way, but when you look at a robot, it doesn't have a strict a function. Like, it's not strictly supposed to do one thing. And so with students, I say, hey, what would you create with this? What opportunities would you create for yourself with this? And as a result of that, then we can pivot and extrapolate out to what industries might you create with this robot.
Yeah. Speaking of pivoting and, struggles, challenges that you may have experienced in your career, in the community, or in the industry in general, would you have some struggles that you could share and maybe an associated triumph that others could learn from?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're working for a company for 10 years and the economy dips, and then that industry, which like the back of your hand, changes, that's shocking, and I'm a dad at the time. I got to take care of this little dude, my son Noah. At the time he's a baby. You have a couple options. You can go home and mope around, or you can immediately mobilize. And in my case, I started to survey the lay of the land. Automation just supplanted my job essentially. So maybe automation is the area that I need to study. And with automation comes robotics and a whole host of other trade skills. Personally, I had already been kind of looking at the horizon and saying, like, what would I do? I had an interest in electronics and robotics prior to the layoff, but it was just a great catalyst to kind of propel me into this new education. And Bakersfield College is just a wonderful resource in the Central Valley for anybody that wants to get educated, re-educate. I was going back to school later in life. I wasn't a high school kid anymore. I was in my 20s, and they provided all of the resources to get me up to speed and get me into industry, and then ultimately give me a career.
speaking of being up to speed and careers, maybe whether an older adult or a younger student today, would you have some advice that you would like to share?
Yes. My advice to young people, my advice to anybody who's looking to get into a new industry is to do your best to kind of relinquish the fear. Anything that you start is going to come with it some anxiety, but I always tell students there's no greater joy than to begin. So every time you start something new, whether it's going to the gym or like we were talking about jiu-jitsu, martial arts, right? There's going to be that fear, but there's also this energy of like, oh, I'm doing something new. Know that that's coming also. So in parallel with this anxiousness you might feel, whether it's going back to school or starting up a new hobby, know that there's also an energy there to have fun. And if you're having fun studying, I mean, you're going to be a lifelong learner, and that's what, especially in this field, if you're going to be successful, you need to be a lifelong learner. You got to be ready at any point to dive into some new technology. I mean, clearly it's changing all of the time.
Yeah, really, it seems like the sky is the limit, and this is a tremendous opportunity and great example here that you have. This next part of the interview is more of a thought experiment, sort of like Castaway. Oh, what are the roadblocks? What are the hurdles? What are the things stopping us from achieving some vision or future? And to consider what those possibilities are. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question of this thought experiment is, what is some low-hanging fruit that people, folks, or students, the community could bite into to make the world a better place?
I think the low-hanging fruit in anyone's life is a library card. I'm always sounding the alarm that we need, excuse me, I'm always sounding the alarm that we need to advocate for literacy, especially here in Kern County. But the more we get students, lifelong learners, people of all ages to read daily, read regularly, that really broadens the horizon and that expands one's vision of the future. So whether it be reading some history novel or science fiction, that I think is the perfect foundation to get someone going. And then in Kern County, we have these wonderful resources, and at every high school, they have libraries, and they have these brilliant innovators, librarians, who are constantly trying to figure out new ways to activate that space. So it's really an awesome opportunity.
I have to agree, actually. My wife we take our kids to the library, and you can get, according to her and my kids too, any books they want. It's like really amazing that, I don't know what they call it, but the program where library books are shared and all of that. Yeah. So
something analogous to that here at CTEC, and that's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So this next question really is not low-hanging fruit, but what are some of the bigger challenges that society faces and maybe opportunities that we shouldn't ignore, that we should bite into as well?
At every stage of innovation, there's going to be challenges, and there are socioeconomic challenges. The economy might be in decline. I think that each person needs to kind of survey their landscape at home and kind of go, well, what can I do? And like we said before with libraries, but I like this idea that the sky is the limit. So if the sky is the limit, we're looking up, we're talking aerospace, moon bases, like how crazy do you want to get? That's where I start with students. And then in this class, we strip it down to its fundamental components. And we look at basic electronics. We look at the programming of machines. And then from that, we pivot slightly and say, okay, if we're troubleshooting circuitry, how can we troubleshoot our lives? How can we use these things in a way to kind of get our life on track in a positive way, right? We're always trying to get from a negative place to a positive place. We come to school to get educated so that we learn some trade skills, and then from those trade skills, we exchange that trade skill for money, right? But we don't just stop there. We need to always push forward. What's the next thing that I can do? What's the next thing I can do to become a better person? And if we can do that in a cohesive way in Kern County, well, that just builds a better community for everybody. Everybody kind of working together with an eye on innovation. You know, recently I was down in Burbank, and once upon a time, you say you're from Bakersfield, people were like, oh, okay, you're from Bakersfield, especially people in LA, right? But no offense to people in LA. But this gentleman, he worked in the film industry down there. He said, oh, Bakersfield, that's kind of the next place, huh? People are moving there. And that was new for me. My whole life I've been in Bakersfield. That's never been the opinion of this place, right? But people here in Kern County I believe, need to see that, oh no, they live in a good place that's ripe for innovation. All of these companies are coming here. When you walk that new Amazon facility, I think it's a marvel, you know. Just briefly about that, I was at Amazon and I had this moment where I was like, oh, this is like standing next to the Great Pyramid of Giza, right? And you're gonna keep, the people that were working in those in that area, yeah, they saw that was happening, but they had to go about their day to day. But it was a marvel. This thing that they've done with automation, industrial automation at Amazon, is it's nothing short of brilliant, and it's completely overwhelming in terms of scope. And it's right here in Kern County. It's right here in our backyard. So I think that when we explore the barrier to entry, it's really focus on education, being willing to try new things, whatever age someone is, go all in, you know. Don't worry. People are gonna make mistakes. It's like I taught my son how to ride his bike, and he crashed like 500 times, but now he can like pop wheelies on it. Eventually you're gonna pop wheelies, you know? Just takes time.
Speaking of popping wheelies, as in terms of achieving things as a world or a community, what role do you see community playing in advancing innovation or a better world?
The role that I see community playing in advancing innovation in Kern County is one where we don't set, we do our best to not set boundaries on innovation and creativity. When we think about Silicon Valley, they are the wild, wild west. I mean, they're really like, hey, what can we do? You know, let's unleash artificial intelligence on the world. Let's, it's almost like a constant stream of innovation. And that's because they literally operate in a world where they consider the sky the limit and beyond. I think that we need to have that happening locally, you know, where, hey, let's get crazy. You know, you're gonna, you know, it can get messy at times when you get a little wild, but I think that kind of doing our best to extend the boundary or to think beyond what we think as far as we can go in terms of the horizon, I think that is where we're going to see big innovation. I heard this gentleman, Theo Jansen, say, the walls between art and engineering exist only in our mind, right? And I try to bring that into my classroom. So it's like, yeah, people tend to think that there's engineering and then there's art. But no, if we bring those two together, that's where innovation happens. And when we bring creativity into business, well, that's how you get Amazon, you know.
Absolutely. You know, I actually have a friend, her name's Yi Lu, and she's totally focused on creativity and innovation and technology. So it's kind of music to my ears along that. And I totally agree. There's a big relationship between art, innovation, and technology in general. So I appreciate that. From, you know, speaking of your legacy and when you're looking back in the future, what would you like to see happen as a result of your efforts?
I would like to see a generation of kids come up that are completely excited that the first day of school is coming and that Monday isn't a drag, that they're like, I cannot wait to get to school. I can't wait. And that's not just here at CTEC. I'd love to see it at comprehensive schools too. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's a librarian, and she's always inspiring me by the projects she's doing in her library. And I would love to see that energy imparted to the next generations, the generations that are coming up. That when we leave this place, this career, that we have recalibrated the way students and people kind of perceive this Monday through Friday chore of going and getting educated. Maybe it's not a chore. It's like, oh, I got to go to CTEC today where I was exploring humanoid robots and mobile industrial robots and these weird quadrupedal dog robots and collaborative robots, you know. How fun is that? So
that's really great. I think fun and passion and the desire to learn is really key. And as you indicated, continuous education is a low-hanging fruit. I'm curious in general, on a broader scale, in terms of a transformation, evolution, or energy transition, as some may call it, do you think it's possible for there to be a just and equitable energy transformation that involves everyone, doesn't leave anyone behind? And if so, how?
Well, this is a huge question, right? It's along the way, so if I put myself in your question, which I'm kind of in that, right? Innovation happened, Steve Jobs, that innovation, the iPad, killed my industry. And so I can stand in my distribution center and go, well, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna be able to do anything, or I can elect to better myself. I think that we need to somehow rebrand education for people that are coming back to it and say, hey, listen, there's no getting around it. You got to get educated and you got to be willing to try new things. For our veterans, we have an amazing resource at Bakersfield College. You know, I mean, I'm an educator, so I'm always going to say, hey, that's the answer. But I believe that. I think that we need to get them to a place where they don't feel as overwhelmed, you know. My beautiful mother, Vicki Bohannon, I always go to her and she's my barometer for all technology. I'm like, if my mom can figure this out, you know, I will just say a near 60-year-old woman, and if she can figure this out, then, and we can kind of diffuse the learning curve a little bit, make it to where it's not so steep, and make it approachable, then we can do that for anybody. And that's really what's going to be important as we move forward, because all of these things, we don't democratize innovation in the United States. We just implement it, you know. So like it or not, AI has arrived, you know. The alien has landed, you know. ChatGPT's here, it's real, and it's going to power the future. I think that we need to make a concerted effort to have healthy discussions about how to use technology, not be afraid of technology, and not be afraid to learn technology. And along the way, I think we're going to do great. You know, I think we're going to be able to do it.
You know, I can't help but ask, I think Skynet and the Terminator started in Bakersfield, right?
You know, I have in this room humanoid robots, and we 3D printed robots, and Skynet always kind of pokes its head up. We would be remiss to not consider that, but I think that the greater danger is to not have a plan for what kind of conversation we're going to have with the Terminators. You know, what kind of conversation are we going to have with this technology as it makes its way in? I mean, every house has been invaded by smartphones, you know, and now we think of it as an extension. Who's to know? I have no idea what's on the horizon with all of that, but 100% I would forecast in the next 10 years, it will be commonplace for humanoid robots to be walking around. Just like it's commonplace to be in downtown LA and have a robot deliver my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right?
Yeah. Speaking of the future in the next 10 years and the growth of this city, Bakersfield, we're here thanks to the City of Bakersfield, the Destination for Innovation series. I'm curious from your perspective with all the work that you're doing and you know, having been in this community for your whole life, what do you see, or how do you see Bakersfield being the destination for innovation?
Well, I mean, you just have to look at I think one thing is you look at all of these factories that are being built. So there's a huge resource in land, and so this is why you get Target, Walmart distribution center, which is a technological marvel, Amazon, and Ross distribution center. You have all of this out here, and with these distribution centers, the underlying thing is money driving it. And so the more efficient they are, the more money can be made. And so that means greater levels of automation. And with greater levels of automation, every single year, if we're going to see greater levels of innovation. So I think it's proportionate, right? So I think that kind of serving our local economy is the way to to forecast the pathway of innovation. And I believe it's not exclusive to automation, but it's a guarantee. If you're focused on automation, you have your sights set on innovation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk about the automation, the innovation, the robotics, and the work that you're doing in the community. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. You're always welcome to come in and sit amidst the Skynet.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to check it out or tour the facility?
The best way to get a hold of me would be to go to the ROC CTEC website and find my program listing. But don't just find my program. Look at all the programs here that we offer. While robotics is my baby, and I think it's awesome, there's amazing programs that are being offered here at the Regional Occupational Center and at the Career Technical Education.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it for the Destination for Innovation. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to connect, collaborate, and create with Stephen. We'll see you soon.